Hello and welcome back to another episode of Ringside Fracas. We've been out for a while, personal issues, scheduling issues, but we're back. We're going to try to get back into it. The month of May has a lot to bring for boxing, so we got to come back. We got to talk about it all. So thank you for listening in, and we're going to get straight into it. And of course, we've got a big month of boxing to get through. Who better than to have Chris with me to preview and review all the fights that are going on this month. Chris, how you been?
I'm good. I'm good. Not too bad. Getting back in the full flow of boxing. But yeah, all good.
It was a good weekend, a very good weekend of boxing. It was actually quite
Mm.
exciting for the whole fight week. I was quite excited last week, and we're gonna go through that first, and then we'll also come to this week. Actually, it's very rare nowadays in boxing where you're excited for two fight weeks, but in these last 2 weeks, I've been quite excited to see what happens on the Saturday nights. Of course, last Saturday you had one of the biggest fights that you could have made in boxing for a while. Now Inoue taking on Junto Nakatani, probably the
Oh yeah.
biggest fight in Japanese history. The pay-per-view gate sold, I think sold around 32 million. The pay-per-view buys broke their records in Japan. It was one of the biggest fights that they sold at the Tokyo Dome with. It was their answer to AJ Fury at its peak as well. And I'm sure that fight will echo across Japanese boxing history in terms of the
Mm.
impact it has for the sport, the industry, and also the young up and coming Japanese boxers who also want to get into the sport and also make their way up. Getting into that fight, it went how actually thought it would probably go, where you have two fighters who are way too fast for each other, way too smart, and way too technical. And it really
Mm.
turned into a technical chess battle where Naoya Inoue shows his superior skills, his superior speed, superior footwork, and he just about edges most of the rounds in the early rounds because there's not much they were giving away with each other. They were too quick for each other. Naoya knew the power of Junto, and he didn't want to stay in there too long. And Junto also knew he couldn't open up too much because he would have got countered by Inoue. But then we get into round kind of seven, and you see that the rounds are going by for Junto, and he starts to up the gears, and you can see that Inoue has started to slow down in those rounds, and Junto's starting to land, starting to let his hands go, getting him to the body, cracking him to the head a bit, and having a good couple rounds 8, 9, and 10. Those 3 rounds kind of swinging the momentum. And even though he lost, probably the first 6 or 7 rounds, the momentum swinging his way. And in these type of fights, that's really important. Unfortunately, in round 10, there was a headbutt that kind of led to it was accidental, and it led to a cut on Junto's eye. It kind of did take the sting out of the momentum a bit, because he did have Inoue reeling at times. He didn't have him properly hurt, but some of the shots he definitely felt. But round 11, I always say this in most fighters' careers, especially elite fighters, you can pinpoint a round where you really see why they're called elite. It's not just highlights, but one particular round. And round 11, I think, was one of the most impressive rounds of Inoue's career. The momentum's going with Junto, and Junto's not this scrub. He's one of the best fighters on the planet. 3 division champion, knockout artist, just one of the top fighters. And the momentum's going with it. And Inoue just comes out there and breaks Junto's orbital with a brilliant uppercut. And then again lands a flying uppercut in that round and takes that round back and takes round 12 back. You look at all the elite fighters, they do that where they lose a round, they lose a bit of momentum, and then they switch in the next round and get it back. Terence Crawford did that to Sean Porter. Usyk did that many times to Fury and Joshua. Even did that to Gassiev and Breedis. Rounds where they just get stuck in and get that round back and show you how superior they really are when it comes to their ability. And he sees up the ring. I had it 8-4, 9-3. I thought it was a comprehensive Inoue win, even though it was competitive. And there are some kind of questions over what would have happened had the headbutt not happened. But
Mm.
Inoue did what he did, broke the orbital, like I said, rose to the occasion in that moment. And really showed his skills. I know all of us were watching it. We were up watching it. Obviously, it was at 1 p.m. We were all kind of excited to see how it goes. Chris, what was your experience kind of watching that? What you remember from it?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I think first things first, it was definitely refreshing to be able to watch boxing bout, a fight with the sky and the sun out in the sky. Do you know what I mean? It's not often we get to do that. Fully awake and whatnot. So yeah, that was great. In terms of the fight itself, really, really interesting fight, man. I enjoyed it as a boxing fan. I think it was very, very coy for the first half of the fight, maybe just leading up until the middle rounds. Um, what I observed was essentially, in a way, just kind of doing a little bit more than Junto, um, when it came to just a bit more output, maybe landing just a shot more, maybe being the aggressor. So just about winning the rounds. That's how I had it. Um, and it wasn't until mid to late rounds where Nakatani finally started gaining some confidence. It's like he realized he was the bigger man. He realized he had the long range. He started looking for that backhand, that strong backhand a lot more. Was landing a lot more shots. And obviously we saw Inoue start to tire. And yeah, it would have probably been a different fight had that headbutt not occurred. On the cut, sorry. Not coming over the eye of Nakatani, but you have to credit Inoue in terms of getting that second wind and really taking those championship rounds to Nakatani. But all in all, great fight. Um, both of them just super fast. Both of them just the reflexes and the reactions were just top notch. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it, and I had them in a way as a pretty comfy win. Like a comfortable win. Even though the fight was close, it was one of those fights where the rounds in a way won weren't always by a massive margin. They're often by a small margin. So it always felt like Nakatani was in the fight, but he rightfully won in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree with you at that first part. Like watching those first couple rounds, especially how cagey it was and how quick they were. Some of the punches were like whiskers away. I mean, if you look back at some of the slow mo, and you look at their reactions and their reflexes, like these punches are literal, like millimeters away from landing and connecting. And these are hard punches they're throwing into each other. And sometimes I was watching it, thinking I was watching like Dragon Ball Z or something. Like you had these lot just locked in, and the speed that was on display. I think we rarely see it in boxing, that level of speed, especially when it comes to head movement and foot and lower body movement as well. And yeah, like you said, towards the end, Inoue just did what he needed to do, and what elite fighters do. They turn up. Doesn't matter the circumstance. Doesn't matter if there's a headbutt. Whatever, they turn up. He took it to Junto, and again, breaking the orbital was a big factor, because once that uppercut landed, not the flying one at first, it was just a short uppercut he landed. You saw Junto take a back step and have to reel back. And at first I thought it was because of the cut, it's kind of the blood getting inside, but no, he broke the orbital. They even confirmed at the hospital that punch was probably the reason that broke his orbital. And that type of injury is very tough. You get that type of injury, your vision's gone. There's so much pain searing through your face. But that's what Inoue had to do, because Junto was coming towards him. And again, the elite show out, and he showed out on Saturday afternoon. And it was such a brilliant fight. Jide, I know you also caught the event and comment on it live. What was your thoughts on Inoue showing out that he's one of the greatest Japanese fighters of all time?
Listen. He's not just one of the greatest Japanese fighters. He's one of the greatest fighters, bro. He's a modern day titan. And the reason why I rate him so much is, for that weight class, being 33 is an old man. He's basically the Usyk in terms of age and like wear and tear of that division, of those divisions, anyways. So for me, he's past his best, and you could see that in that fight where he fought more tactically. He fought a lot more tactically in this fight than I'm used to see him. Not that he's not fought tactically before, he clearly has, but it's like here you saw him start really fast. I think he swept for me the first 6 rounds. And then the fight wore on, Junto was just coming on strong, and it was, to me, felt like it was getting to him until it's like Inoue landed that big shot, cracked him, and then it's like he finished. He done a Usyk where the last 3 rounds, it seemed, especially the last two, it seems like Inoue was just on him again. Again, I see you saying that he cracked his. I didn't know it was an orbital fracture damage, but bro, Inoue hits fucking hard. Like what he done to him there. But yeah, man, it was, for me, it was a great fight, and obviously Saturday was a busy day for me, so I was I was in and out. I made sure I watched that fight because, like, I feel like this year that's like the big major fight so far, anyways. But yeah, what I will say as well is if I'm Junto, I wouldn't be disheartened or discouraged. I still feel like he beats everyone else. Like, I genuinely, based on what I saw, it's like he was just half a step behind Inoue. And that's just because Inoue is that good. And when he was onto Inoue, bro, he could. There were times that it was missing shots, and I'm like, bro, if he cracks Inoue with one of these shots, it's lights out, bro. And I feel like if he fights someone else, he's landing that. All the guys Inoue is beating, I feel like Junto beats.
Mm.
Personally, I may be wrong, but I feel like he beats all of them. So if I'm him, I wouldn't be discouraged. You literally lost to, my opinion, one of, if not the best. I didn't see Henry Armstrong. I didn't see all these guys. Like, I could only read about them. All I'm saying is, out of the ones I've seen, Chocolatito, him, um, yeah, Rigo maybe, but Rigo didn't really have a great run. He's probably the
Chocolatito got
best.
found out, man.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely got found out. But for me, like, he's the best, man. He's the best.
Yeah, and one of the things that tends to happen with guys like Inoue is this was one of the big questions for the last like 2 years. The question was, what would happen if he faced someone like Junto Nakatani, especially because Junto's rise since 2021 was quite rapid. I mean, the guy literally went through 3 divisions and smoked everyone. Is that once you get through these hurdles, it's never enough. The next person comes into the conversation, and once you beat that guy, it's the next person that comes into the conversation. You're always going to be chasing greatness. And for me, the media obviously have one person in mind, which I get into. For me, I think the next thing, if Inoue wants a new mountain to climb, it has to be the featherweight division. I think there are that's
I disagree. I disagree. I get you, but the reason why I don't want him to go featherweight is, number one, all them guys are big. Like, they're big, they're tall or longer, I should say. Like Figueroa's is just dimensions is crazy, and like Junto is already quite long pause for the weight, and now you're expecting Inoue to go up again at 33, 34 to fight and deal with those dimensions again. Number one, that's. But for me, the main reason why I don't like it is them guys ain't trying to fight each other. They're all waiting in line for Inoue to fight them, and I don't like that. Why are you waiting for the small Japanese guy to come up and you can make life-changing money? How about they have a round-robin tournament and whoever's undisputed fights the undisputed at the lighter weight? That I would have been in favour of. But them just chilling there, waiting for Inoue to fight them, I don't fuck with that. Which is why if I'm Inoue, I just chill. I chill and wait for Bam to come out and beat him and retire.
true. But the problem with the featherweight division is in the last 20 years, before even Inoue was fighting, there's never been a unification. I think the reason I said 126 for Inoue is literally because that's the mountain. I think that's where you might come unstuck. And someone like Inoue, with the spirit that he has, he's always going to look for the next big thing, as in what's the next big challenge that is quite tough. And which is why I think we will see Inoue lose at some point in his career, because I can't see him being the type of person to quit while he's ahead or quit while he's on top. Like, it'll always be, what's the next thing? What can I do more? What can I show that I can keep achieving? And I think 126 is in the option maybe for next year. I think he's definitely taking a rest, because if you look back at his 2025, he had 4 fights. Then he had this fight 4 or 5 months after his 4 months after his last fight. So obviously a big rest is on the way for him. But 126 for me, I think that's just, if you want to keep pushing the boundaries, that's the way to push the boundary. The other option, which people are talking about, is obviously, and they're now kind of getting into talks about, is Bam Rodriguez. I'm not the biggest fan of that fight. The reason being is I still need to see Bam do things at 118 and show that he can be a bantamweight first and then be a 122 fighter. It's kind of, you're jumping the gun, even though people think that's only 4 pounds now, because obviously Bam's next fight is at bantamweight for the WBA title. But 4 pounds is a lot in that weight, in those weight divisions, because they're all small. I guess their proportions and their percentages are the same, kind of, when you do the jumps. But I'm excited to see that fight if Bam can move up the weight classes and still retain his speed and retain his nimbleness and his abilities and whatnot, which is, I'm more than happy. But it's just not something I'm looking at next. But what would you guys prefer? If you're thinking, what's the next big mountain? What's the next big mountain you'd like to see from Inoue? Chris, I'll come to you first.
I'll be so honest. I think he should just retire, man. Yeah, I think maybe not in terms of just retiring, but for me, it's a bit of a shame that his career is just not going to be appreciated. And what he's done is just never going to be rated to the extent it should be. He's an old guy for the division, for the weight class, for his size. He's an old guy. He's not going to be able to keep up with a lot of the younger prospects. For me, he probably just has to make as much money as possible, in my opinion. I think if they can sort something with Bam and he's feeling up for it, take it. But otherwise, I'm not clamoring to really see him do something. It's gotten to a point where, within a way, it's about finding a way to make him lose. And I don't know. I'm not sure I'm completely down with that, but yeah, that's where I stand specifically with Inoue, to be honest.
Jide?
Yeah, I've pretty much said what I'd like to see next, which is the Bam fight. Apart from that, I'm not really pushing him. He's done 4 weight classes. It's pretty much been imperious in all of them. Still till this day, his hardest fight is my man. What's his name?
Dunno.
That's it. Yeah, and he's fought legends, Hall of Famers, and he's done something that many other undisputed champions, even Terence doesn't really do, which is defend his undisputed crown. Normally, guys win it, and they just, rightfully so, by the way, they just drop a belt or think fuck it. But my man is going around fighting everyone. Clean, to me, this is what cleaning out the division looks like. I know Nakatani came up, but he's essentially wiped his division and they set up a super fight, and he's proved he's the best Japanese fighter in the world. And for me, the rightful pound for pound fighter. I get what Chris is saying, he won't be appreciated. I think he will. The people that won't appreciate him are people that don't give a fuck about the smaller weight classes anyways. It's not nothing new. No one really rated Chocolatito. No one rated Pacquiao till we got to welterweight. Like, these guys are never rated anyways. And that's just what it is. He's one of those guys where you have to be a proper boxing purist or a guy that follows the smaller weight classes to give him his respect. However, in the region, he will be rated. In Southeast Asia, he will be very rated. I'm sure all the boxing fans from China to Vietnam to India all the way to Japan know who Inoue is, because that's their relative time zone, number one, and number two, that's just their region. So the same way as we rate a lot of Western guys or guys in Europe more than, we don't really watch anyone in Africa like that, or do you know what I mean? So I think he'll be fine. He'll definitely be rated.
Yeah, and also, like, what he's done is kind of revolutionary, especially from the smaller weight class, because this is one of the biggest fights we've seen. And I think the Bam fight will probably happen next year. I think the money, again, the conversations and the money, I think he knows he could probably beat Bam. The amount of money he's making is revolutionary, because we've never heard, at this weight class, breaking the 4th highest gate in boxing history. $32 million is no small number. The fact that they made that is insane, but it shows you the power that Inoue has. It shows you how he's revolutionized those weight classes. Like, he's shown the smaller weight classes, realistically, you don't have an excuse not to make money. I've shown you the way. You can do it yourself. You can see that there's a market for it. You can see that there's an industry. You can see it's possible. So you can go out and do it yourself. And it's quite revolutionary. Like I said, it's revolutionary because before him, there were the four kings that you had, obviously Chocolatito, Estrada, Rungvisai, Quadras. You had those elite fighters. When they kept fighting each other, they put on some of the greatest fights. The problem was they were in America, and they did well, actually. They sold well, but it wasn't blockbuster numbers. Inoue's come in and set blockbuster numbers, not in America, but in Japan, which is insane because usually the blockbuster numbers are not set in Japan. They're set in America and in the West. And so his legacy, like I said, with boxing, obviously will definitely go, will be remembered for a while. But the revolution that he's done for the smaller weight fighters, and the amount of money he's shown that is possible to be on the table, is going to start getting people G'd up. And that's why there's a huge boxing boom in Japan in the last couple of years. It started with Inoue, and they've had boxing and they've been great at it, and they've had their own kind of small little booms, but this is a huge boom, and he's been spearheading the start of it. So it's good to see that. And like I said, for Junto, I think what's next is to go back to the playbook. You came up short. It happens. There's so many 122 fighters out there that he could headline against and fight, like Luis Neri, John Rio Casimiro. Them two are fighting each other. Could fight the winner of that. TJ Doheny, MJ Akhmadaliev, anyone of the Inoue catalog you could fight. And with Junto, just one last thing I want to add. That guy is definitely not going to retire 122. In my opinion, I think he can easily go up to lightweight. If you look at his frame, you look at how he's built, I think he could go. I think he could go all the way up to lightweight. I think that guy can fill out easily with his frame. And the things that we were talking about with Inoue in terms of going up in weights, Inoue is quite small. Junto, I think, will be able to do it, and it translate well. So it'll be interesting to see. Of course, last weekend we also had another monster on the show, where you had David Benavidez take on Zurdo Ramirez for his WBA and WBO cruiserweight titles. This is David Benavidez's first fight at cruiserweight. He's moved up 25 pounds since his last fight with Anthony Yarde in November. And wow, what a performance. I mean, that was dominant. It was brutal. It was tough to watch at times. And it was scary, especially if you're someone in the light heavyweight and cruiserweight division. It was scary to see the hand speed. It was scary to see the fire, the desire, the hunger, the combinations, the volume, the power, the damage. I mean, this guy is on fire right now, and it's hard to kind of quantify where his career ceiling is at the moment. Chris, did you catch that Benavidez Zurdo fight? And what do you think about the monster David Benavidez?
Oh, mate, I caught the fight. I watched the face-off, the head-to-head at the weigh-in, and Zurdo's size and stature, it just looks so much bigger than Benavidez. And I thought, you know what? We've seen Benavidez bully a lot of guys who are a lot smaller than him. We've seen that. Let's see what we've seen him dropped before, obviously because of his balance, but still we've seen him work hard. So let's see how he copes against a guy who is tough, is technically pretty sound, but is a lot bigger than he is. I'm pretty sure Zurdo is maybe an inch or two taller than him in height.
Yeah.
He's naturally bigger than he is. So it was just really interesting. I still thought Benavidez was going to win. I definitely didn't see the fight going like that. I mean, initially, Benavidez was, he does what he does. He throws in punches and bunches. He lands a lot of shots. And Zurdo would get in a few shots in between at times in the early rounds. But what was happening was that Benavidez was landing even more shots, and Zurdo just didn't, like, the punches he was throwing and landing just didn't have the impact that you'd expect them to have from a guy so much bigger. He seemed a lot slower, a hell of a lot slower than Benavidez in all aspects. Um, he just didn't have the punch power for me to really keep Benavidez honest. And yeah, when the stoppage came, it wasn't a surprise. He didn't get back up. I thought he was taking a lot of the shots well up until that final flurry. And there's a lot of debate about, the elbows, the use of the elbows. But all in all, I just think it just became a little bit too much for Zurdo. And it's a statement knockout. Honestly, it's a real, real big statement knockout. And to the point where people are now talking about him fighting Usyk, which I think is ridiculous. Um, but it's a big statement. I mean, now I think a more realistic pinnacle I'd like to see is something along the lines of a Jai Patai. I know obviously with Jai's situation it's pretty much going to be impossible, but that would be a great fight to see after what I've just seen and his knockout of Zerdo. But yeah, apparently the plan is to go back down, fight Bivol. It's hard to say. It's hard to bet against him beating Bivol at this point in time. The only big issue I could see is with his weight, the kind of yo-yoing in weight. It could cause him issues. We've seen it with loads of different fighters previously. But yeah, he's a scary guy, and I think the divisions above and below him are on notice. Everyone's a bit fearful. I think a lot of people are gonna duck him, and understandably so. But yeah, sky's the limit for him, honestly.
Yeah, and you're right. They're kind of doing the thing that they did with Canelo a couple of years ago when Canelo beat Kovalev. It was kind of like, oh, he could go and fight Makabu. Oh, he could go and fight Usyk. Oh, he could. Uh, the kind of there was kind of just this like kind of fantasy matchmaking that he could go and basically do everything, and they're kind of doing it again with Benavidez. Well, oh, I think he'd beat. There's people saying he'd beat Anthony Joshua. He'd beat Daniel Dubois. He'd beat. Um, Usyk, especially with his style, and it's kind of jumping the gun because he fought a great fight and he looks amazing and he does look in the pinnacle of his career. But we still have the other fights that need to get done in his division, as the two divisions that he's championing. Jide, the Mexican monster, is he living up to the name?
He is, man. I can't lie. I used to be one of the guys that had him on fraud watch because of the way he was moving, like just catting for a Canelo fight, missing weight, losing his belt, and still like catting for a Canelo fight, not trying to fight anyone else. It was just rubbing me the wrong way. But yeah, man, the guy is him. I'm not gonna lie. Not because of what he done to Zerdo. I always had him beating Zerdo, but I had him beating Zerdo by points. But it's more so the construct of how you beat him. Um, I feel like the best chance of anyone around 168 to 175 beating him was a younger Beterbiev, because I feel with Benavidez you have to hurt him. He's square on, he's right in front of you, but his hands are so fast that, and it's like his hand speed is not like a Sugar Ray Leonard Flory hand speed where it's just like a tippy tappy. He does the tippy tappy stuff, but it's like he puts force in every shot. It's so weird, like at that size to have hands that fast in combination. It's such a weird thing. And the thing about him is, yeah, he may be a bit square on sometimes, but he's got crazy stamina. I feel like a lot of Mexicans just have that. So he's always in front of you. So if you can't hurt him, it's long. Like for me, Zerdo is still probably better than him in the inside, personally. But he couldn't do what he likes to do on the inside. He couldn't set traps. It was just getting his head pinged off. And like in the fourth round where he got when he got dropped the first time, he was doing well that round. He was doing well. And then Benavidez just said, nah, I'm not having this. Brrr, ba, 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 ba. Dropped him. Like the guy is very, very scary. You need to be able to hurt him, and he's fought guys that can't hurt him. He's talking about he wants to fight Canelo and he needs to cut that shit out. He's definitely not going to fight Opataya. See, Opataya is a guy that I thought beats him. He will never fight Opataya, not yet, anyways. Because again, Opataya is a guy that can hurt him and can match him with speed. Like, can match him with dog. Probably has a better chin than Opataya. Might be, I don't know if he's stronger. Probably not. But that is a guy that I feel like beats him. Obviously, they're talking about him going to heavyweight. That's nonsense. All them guys beat the crap out of him because, again, he's too square on. He'll get hit. He's just going to get stopped. He's a guy that if you can hurt him, you will beat him. But Beterbiev now, I don't think beats him because he's too old. So he can generally dominate 175 and cruiserweight with good matchmaking. So yeah, this is the time of the monster. I can't lie, it's his time. He just needs to cut out calling out Canelo. Like, you're not, the guy's not gonna fight you, and rightfully so. You are. It's like us, man, finding a way to bow down in weight and fight a year 7, and be like, yeah, we're fighting. Like, come on, it's not going to happen. Let it go.
Which year 7 pissed you off? But anyway, yeah, no, I think with Benavidez, I think he's just too much of a problem. His speed, his hand speed, his power, because there's still power in those shots. The volume, the determination, the hunger, the work rate, the pressure. It's just a lot, and especially he does a lot of subtle things well, especially when he's getting hit with shots. He's rolling and sliding well. He's catching it on the gloves. So he's not making it easy for you to actually land on him. He's not the most technically proficient defensive fighter, but he still has got some good defense to his game, which takes away from it. And then he counters straight back, which makes it difficult because once you land and you get countered, it mentally takes away from you because you're thinking, okay, I landed a good shot, but now he's coming back with something. And it makes you think about whether or not you should keep going with your attack. The only thing I'll say is, I expected more from Zurdo. I thought Zurdo would have been bigger. He would have been able to impose his size more. He just couldn't handle the speed. He couldn't handle the combinations. And he ended up becoming a punching bag because he couldn't move around the target at all. And he couldn't pin the arms. He couldn't do anything, really. He was just there taking the shots, trying to fire back 1, 2 in between, but really couldn't do much beyond that. I think Benavidez, like I said, he's in his peak. He's going to keep selling out arenas. He's going to be one of the top names in the sport, and it's going to take a lot to beat him. I think, though, what I do think is his biggest issue are people that have decent power, like you said, Jide, but also people that can move and pivot around. One of the reasons why he struggled to stop someone like Gvozdyk and didn't look like the Mexican monster, and he beat Gvozdyk, but he didn't batter him, or he didn't look like he was going to stop him at any point, was because Gvozdyk is a very, very, very good mover. He doesn't just move, but he moves purposefully. He holds his feet, lands, and then moves off. I think that's a big issue that Benavidez has because his feet still plod. He's not good with his footwork. He doesn't cut off the ring properly. I still think that his ability to cut off the ring is very inefficient. But the problem is because he's got his combinations are great, he's able to wear you down. And most of the guys he fights aren't that great at pivoting and moving. If you look at it, he's fought Zurdo, he's fought Yard. Before that, but then before those two, he fought Morel and Gvozdyk. Morel and Gvozdyk were the only ones where I thought he looked good. He didn't look like a monster. And that's not a discredit to him because, even if you still look good and you win the fights, you're not going to complain. But the difference is with Morel and Gvozdyk is these are guys that can hit, but guys that can move, guys that know how to pivot around, guys that are active on their feet. They're not slow with their feet. If you're slow, you will get hit, you will get battered, you will get bombarded. So guys like Opataya and Bivol have that on him where their footwork is much better. And they can make him move, they can make him miss, and they can utilize the fact that he's quite inefficient with cutting off the ring and land their shots and counter and move. The only problem is, can they also withstand whatever attacks they have to withstand when he is able to trap them on the ropes at times? So that's why it makes those two fights quite interesting. Opataya definitely does have the power to hurt him, but I've also seen Opataya struggle with someone like Maris Briedis, and especially the work rate that Maris Briedis puts and the inside work. So I can see Benavidez winning on that angle. And with Bivol, he's not the biggest guy at 175. I think it's quite clear to most people he's not a huge 175er. The size difference could overwhelm him. The amount of punches that are being thrown his way could overwhelm him, especially coming off that back surgery, which is why these are such...
Bivol's not a good matchup at all. That's why they want to fight him, because they've sparred him, so they know they probably have him for strength and size. and they know he can't hurt them. That's why they're keen on that.
Benavidez a worse matchup in terms of, okay, he's older now, but in his prime, that's a worse matchup because that's a guy who also can move, but he's also got power and he can also fight, and he's also going to punch you from all awkward angles. He's not looking to box you; he will fight you in between. And Benavidez is used to guys trying to box him, but not able to fight him back. But that's a fight if you take now, fantastic, explosive, and you can catch Benavidez, Beterbiev, especially because he's older. So the options are limited. I'm not getting swayed in terms of thinking that this is an unbeatable guy, like some guys think. I think there are definitely ways to beat him. I think there's a reason why, like I said, there's a reason why those two performances against Gvozdyk and Morel, he looked the way he did. Again, he didn't look like he was going to lose it, although he did get dropped by Morel because of his balance. But he didn't look like this unbeatable monster. He looked like, you know what, there are weaknesses there. And I think those weaknesses are still there. It's just against certain opponents, they look less. And against other opponents, they look more amplified. So it's interesting. I think he's a pound for pound level fighter. I think no one can deny that. I think he's a 3-division champion, or 2-division. I think it might be 2-division actually. And he's just been a problem. No one's been able to deal with. The one thing I'm quite impressed is Benavidez was someone everyone talked about for over a decade. Like, people have been talking about Benavidez since this kid was like 7 or 8. You know, when he was a fat kid in the gym sparring Kelly Pavlik at age 15, or sparring guys like Triple G at age 15. A lot of people had a lot of hopes on him because like this kid could fight. And like you said, Jide, there was parts of his career where he was taking cocaine, he was missing weight and losing his belt twice, where you wondered whether or not he could actually live up to the potential that most people gave to him. I think he's living up to it now. I think this is where this is peak Benavidez. I don't think, like, obviously the performances can still come, but I think this is the moment we're seeing the best version of David Benavidez, and I'm glad he's managed to achieve it. He's lived up to the potential, and he's managed to show what he's capable of. Had he gotten the Canelo fight, it probably would have been his crossover fight and the fight that made him the face of boxing, but he can do it without Canelo. He just needs to keep fighting and he needs to keep getting his name out there. But he's a big star already.
He's not, is he? Like,
he's a star. He's not the biggest star, but he's a star.
That face of boxing stuff that the Americans are trying to push on him, like, is forced. He doesn't have a dance partner, and the dance partner that he could have had to propel him, he doesn't want to fight.
He's still a star. I think
he's a star, but
he'll sell out arenas easily. Like, it's just, can he sell out stadiums? It's very difficult to sell out stadiums.
We'll see.
Especially, but if he goes heavyweight, then maybe he could.
I want him to do a nice cruiserweight campaign and stop making excuses not to fight Opetaia. That's the fight I want to see. Not because I feel like Opetaia definitely beats him. I think he beats him, but I think that's a really good fight. I think that's a really, really, really good fight. But he would never take that fight.
But Opetaia also needs to, but the point, but Opetaia still needs to read the terms of his contract.
Turkey's already said he's like Zuffa fighters can fight on ring cards, and Benavidez has already fought on a ring card. But there's nothing stopping that fight except dead man know they'll get smacked.
But Benavidez wants a title on the line, like not just for Opetaia. If he's fighting someone, he wants a title on the line. And Zuffa have come out saying they don't want to work with.
They've changed their minds since they know like guys ain't gonna go to them if they're not working with sanctioning bodies. So I just think it's convenient.
No, but
they've come out and said they're happy. They like Dana said he's willing to work with sanctioning bodies. They know they can't. He can't do what he was doing at UFC in boxing. He knows he can't. Now
he says that, but then he's gotten 2 champions to drop both their belts. Opetaia and Hitchens. They both went over to Zuffa and they both dropped their belts.
Yeah, it's the IBF, because the IBF don't fuck with them. Currently, they have no issues with the WBC. Like the WBC hasn't said any of their fighters can't fight.
But they don't have anyone. That's the thing. They haven't signed anyone yet. So we have to see whether or not what they do when they sign. That's the problem with Zuffa is we don't know what because Dana can say all this. We don't know what the kind of outlook is when it comes to Zuffa and what they're doing, because I think the fights are great. I think they're coming to Bournemouth soon. That's a great fight with Billam Smith and Brian Rizicki, but you've got two champions who've dropped their belts outright. Haven't you can be on the Zuffa cards and still fight for the titles. It's just you're not fighting the people that they want you to fight in the sanctioning body. So showing that you're not all this. So we'll see. It's kind of a mess with how Zuffa is trying to operate when it comes to the top level. But yeah, it's interesting to see what David Benavidez has next, especially if things like heavyweight could be in the future for him. Speaking of the heavyweights, this weekend we've got one of the best fights, I think, on the British schedule. We've got the WBO heavyweight title fight between the world champion Fabio Wardley and Daniel Dubois. This is one fight that came out of left field. I don't think anyone kind of expected this fight to take place. But it is a fantastic fight between two heavy hitters. Both have 95% KO ratio. Both are 6'5". Both are literally one of the heaviest punchers, some of the heaviest punchers in the heavyweight division. And they both are going to go out there and give it their all. And this is one of those old school heavyweight scraps between two big punchers where people pay to see, because you want to see two big guys knock each other out. Jide, when this fight was announced, and now we're on kind of fight week, how are you feeling for this one?
Yeah, I've been on the fence regarding this fight, but I've got a pick now. I think Dubois does him in, man. I think Dubois does him. I think it's going to be an electric fight. And Wardley has a chance. Like, he's gonna, if he cracks Dubois, I feel like Dubois will quit, like always. But I just think Dubois is just so much better than him technically and on a fundamental basis. But he also hits very, very hard. Like Wardley, the guys Wardley's been fighting and beating that have been better than him technically don't hit this hard. So it's always allowed him to stay in the fight for him to land his detonator. I just feel like with Dubois, two-handed power, he's got better jab, he's got better fundamentals, better distance management. Yeah, man, I just think he beats him. But it's going to be an electric fight. I can't wait for it.
Chris, your thoughts on this huge heavyweight fight?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Jide, to be honest. I was a bit on the fence before, just because I question Dubois' heart and his ability to, bare his teeth and actually just fight through tough situations. I'm not sure. Even now, I'm not still 100% convinced on that. But I just think he's probably the bigger puncher. His jab is an absolute nightmare. I could see a reality where he just kind of bloodies up. Um, he just bloodies up Wardley's face, and it gets to a point where, even though they're going hell for leather, just the guy who's slightly more technical, or not even slightly, but he's comfortably more technical than Wardley is, and I feel like over the course of about 6 or 7 rounds, I could see him getting a stoppage of some sort. He's just a bit too full on. And I'm not sure that Wardley's going to be able to cope with that long term. I'd love to be proven wrong. But I just don't see it. I see Dubois just kind of overwhelming him in the end. And Woodley's got heart, so I don't see him ever giving up in this fight. But I could see a reality where he stopped in a corner or ref has stopped it. But yeah, great fight either way. And both have the ability to knock each other out. So it'll be a great watch.
Yeah, I think there's, if you're someone that's watching, there's two key things that Jide and Chris mentioned. The one big battle that technically will happen from round one is the jab battle. Anytime Dubois has lost a fight, it's because he's lost the jab battle. It's either the other person has a better jab in Joe Joyce, or the other person in Usyk has a better jab and is also making Dubois miss with his own jab. Either way, whenever he loses that jab battle, he isn't able to establish his jab properly. He can't find the space to get his shots off. So his distance management then just struggles, because the lead hand, the jab, is also his way of being able to understand how far he is from the target, so he knows which shots to let go. When you take that away from him, like Usyk was doing by circling around, by feinting, then playing his jab, then moving and taking that jab away. Dubois couldn't get into his second phase of offense at all. He was always reaching, which is why it made it easier and easier in the second fight with Usyk for him to get countered to the point where then he just opened up and he unraveled. And I think if you take the jab away and if you're able to have a better jab than him, you will win the fight. I think that was one of the things when we were talking about AJ Dubois was we thought AJ would do that and he didn't. You give Dubois his jab, you will struggle to beat him. It doesn't matter who you are. If you do not take that jab away, you will struggle to beat him. Like Chris said, he's got one of the better jabs in the heavyweight division, and it's a proper nightmare to deal with. The other factor to deal with, like we said, is the mental fortitude. You've got one guy in Wardley, Fabio Wardley, the champion, and he is where he is simply due to his toughness and his punching power, but his toughness mainly. This is a guy who does not care who is on the other side of the ring. He will go out and try to scrap. It doesn't matter. You could put 10 Mike Tysons in front of him. He'll probably lose, but he'll go out swinging. I don't, this guy has one of the strongest mental fortitudes. Even in the toughest battles, when he's getting bloodied up and battered by Fraser Clark in the first fight, still coming back to land his own shots and take that draw. And obviously in the second fight, then just rearranging his face. The Justice Hooney fight was a big kind of advocate for his mental toughness, because in that type of fight, you're being outclassed, you're being outgunned, you're being outfought. Justice Hooney just too fast, just doing too much, and you're thinking, okay, 9 rounds in, Fabio probably doesn't have much more left in the tank to be able to get himself back in. Round 10, towards the end, just gives it his all and wings the right hand and takes the fight back. Joseph Parker, again, he's cracking Joseph Parker, and Joseph Parker's cracking him with some good shots. Doesn't matter. It's not deterring Wardley. He can get punched. He can take the shot. He can eat it, and he keeps going forward. And that is such a huge factor, especially when it comes to heavyweight boxing, because you will get hit hard. You will get punched hard. If you can fight through it and you can show toughness, you can still keep coming. That's a huge advantage to you. And Dubois is someone that we've seen, like you said, where he can take a shot. He's got a chin. He's quite tough. But he's shown where he can be worn out mentally and he struggles to get himself back into a fight. With the Usyk fight, it was literally, he couldn't find a way through because his basic game plan wasn't working and he couldn't get his jab going. He was just getting pinged from left, right, and center, and he was just thinking, okay, I'm done. Let me take a knee. With Joyce, obviously, you give some, you sympathize because his eye was gone, but it was kind of, again, the devil's advocate is, well, you were in the 10th and 11th round. If you just were able to see those 2 rounds out, even if you didn't win them, you would have won the fight. Usyk too, he got battered. He got hit hard with a really big left hand. But I saw when the first knockdown happened, he was just looking at his corner, and you could see there was that kind of air of mental defeat. He just didn't know what to do. You give him the game plan. If it's not working, he doesn't know how to kind of adapt, and he doesn't really want to be there. And that would be quite important in this fight, because especially like you said, when the punches start flying and it starts getting tough, is he going to be able to stay in there and keep going? But that being said, I just don't think Wardley is sound enough to get his work going. I think he'll be beaten on the jab battle. I think Wardley will land some hard shots that will make Dubois think. I think Dubois will definitely be reeling at times in this fight, but Dubois overall will keep landing his shots, and Wardley is not going to kind of, again, get out of the way. Wardley's kind of improved where he will do jabs to the body and he'll be able to come forward and swing his shots. But he still makes the same mistakes where he doesn't move his head as often. He moves back in straight lines. He gets a bit careless and he kind of leans over and leans into the shot. And I kind of think what I can see happening is Dubois stopping him in 10 rounds, just landing too much, just simply getting the jab off, landing all his power punches. And just Wardley just either taking a knee or the referee just stepping in saying, look, it's too much damage you're taking. But I think if Wardley wins, I think the same thing. I think he drags it out into a scrap and Dubois has to take a knee. But I'm going with Dubois. I think Dubois wins it. I think, like I said, he's the more athletic fighter. I think he's the more technical fighter. And I think he's the heavier puncher, like Chris said. I think those factors will help him. I think the factors that made him lose fights were that he wasn't the most athletic, he wasn't the quickest, and he lost that jab battle, he wasn't the smartest. I think he's the smarter fighter here. I think Wardley is the better fighter, as in he can fight, But I think Dubois is a smarter fighter here. So I think that plays into his factor. But it's going to be such a good fight because this is one of those ones where literally one punch can change it. One punch genuinely can change this fight. That's what you pay for when it comes to these type of fights. You don't know. You can we technically break it down, and the probability it might go down the way you technically break it down. But realistically, anything can happen in that ring, especially when two big heavyweights start swinging punches at each other's heads.
Yeah, and also I've seen people say, "Oh, why is Dubois getting so many opportunities?" I feel like people don't really study the heavyweight division. Because if you look in the past, there's contenders who will have like 4 or 5 cracks at the title, or there would be like hella rematches. Because remember, these are big guys. There's not many high level big guys, but when you do find those high level big guys, they usually all just fight each other. So I'm actually giving Dubois a lot of respect from coming from a loss to going after Wardley.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
go on.
Do we care? These are two big heavyweights and they are punching each other. Who is Wardley going to fight in between? I mean, he's not getting the Usyk fight next. It was quite clear he wasn't going to get that. There's no one really out there. Itauma? No, that's never going to happen. They're with the same trainer, so that's never going to happen. It's a fun fight. I think like if people complain about this fight, you really got to check what you're complaining about. It's fun. Like this is fun to watch. You can complain about like, for example, Ryan Garcia getting a title shot against Mario Barrios because that's not fun to watch either. But this is fun. Like you can get any casual to watch this and it'll be fun. They'll be on the edge of their seat watching these two big heavyweights try to knock each other out. It's fun. Like we can just admit it's fun and we can watch it and let's see what happens. Especially with the heavyweight division, we kind of don't know what direction it's heading in. I think there are talks that Usyk and Caballero will happen at the end of the year, which will be good for the division. And then Wardley can kind of take on whoever's out there, whether it's this Torres Sanchez winner or whoever kind of they get lined up for Wardley or Dubois if Dubois wins as well. So it'll be fun to see. So I'm excited for this Saturday. The card's quite good. You've got David Morrell versus Zach Chelli. Obviously, it's a replacement fight because David Morrell was meant to fight Callum Smith, but still seeing David Morrell on that card is quite good. I think he's going to put on a good performance in that fight. You've got Jack Rafferty versus Echo Esselman. That's a good fight. I think Rafferty, someone's coming up in the domestic division. He's doing his bit. And obviously Esselman coming off that brutal loss against Jack Cashel, which we watched together, Jude. And then you've also got Liam Cameron versus Brad Rhea, again, another decent domestic level fight to watch. So this weekend, there's some good fights to watch. Obviously, also Zufov got Sergey Bohachuk versus Shane Mosley Jr. You've also got a potential Inoue opponent in Angelo Leo, IBF featherweight champion, taking on Rais Salim. So that's one to watch out for. It's not, I don't know if it's on the zone, but it's one fight to watch out for because Angelo Leo is actually quite decent. But yeah, the fights are coming thick and fast. You've got the Usyk Pyramids in Giza fight card, whatever they called it, coming up soon. So yeah, we're back. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep being here weekly. We're going to keep review all the fights and go through all of it. If you want to see anything, please let us know your thoughts in the comments. As always, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace out.
Cheers.